Hey, everybody, what's going on? This is your man, Big B, Brian Hanley, and welcome to Steelers Almighty Report Card. Steelers with a big win yesterday, 32-13 over the Las Vegas Raiders. This is our Report Card podcast. A lot of good things from the Steelers yesterday. Everything wasn't spectacular, but a lot of good things. First off, I think I may have been wrong about Justin Fields. We're going to look into this. I may have been wrong. And you know me, I'm man enough to say when I'm wrong. But it wasn't as horrible as I initially said that it was. I went back, looked at the all 22, and yeah, I mean, there were some things that he did bad, but it wasn't all on him. And it wasn't as bad as I initially thought. So we're going to get into all of that and more and break down everything. But before we do, again, as always, remember, like, follow, subscribe, and continue to leave those comments. Again, Steelers Almighty is the fastest growing Steelers channel on YouTube. We appreciate that. It's all because of you guys, man. We're closing in on 4,000 subscribers. Again, we just started this thing April 4th of this season, or of this year. So I appreciate you guys, man, and all the support that you guys have shown us. We absolutely appreciate it and love you guys for that. But let's get into this. Look, first things first, let's break down the quarterback play. As I mentioned, Justin Fields was not nearly as bad as what I initially had thought. Yes, there were some overthrows. Yes, there were some things that he could have done better. But for the most part, he was okay. So yeah, he was okay. He got out of trouble when he needed to get out of trouble. Those are things that Russell Wilson is just not capable of being able to do. But I think Russell Wilson throws the football better. That's just kind of his thing. He just throws the football better. But yesterday, that Fields wasn't bad. He wasn't bad. I went back and looked. My initial emotional response, like we all do, was that he was horrible. Yeah, he wasn't horrible. Was it the best game that I've seen him play? No, but he was okay. He was okay. And for that, I give Justin Fields a B for the day. Yeah, he was okay, man. Not as bad as I thought. Again, like I said, I'm man enough to go back and say when I'm wrong. I have no problems with that. It is what it is. We all make mistakes, but it was just emotional. Just emotional. Some of the throws, I mean, he can't help when he's throwing the ball to guys and they drop the football. I mean, you can't blame that on the quarterback. And the offensive line, it wasn't terrible. I know a lot of people are trying to say the offensive line was terrible. It wasn't terrible. The Raiders have a good front. At least Max Crosby is really good. But yeah, give Justin Fields yesterday a B for what he did against the Las Vegas Raiders. I always want to call them Oakland. I always want to do that. The Las Vegas Raiders. Moving on to the running backs. Look, first off, let me start by saying Jaylen Warren is not healthy. I mean, we could see it. He didn't have the kind of explosion that he needed, but he's better than what we had the previous week against the Dallas Cowboys. But regardless of any of that, Najee Harris was outstanding yesterday. Look, we're going to crush Najee when his vision is bad. He doesn't show explosion. We're going to crush him for all of that, and we have. But when he plays great, we need to say that he played great, regardless of what you think of him in previous games or years or whatever. When he's good, you need to say that he was good. And yesterday, he was good. We saw a burst. We saw power. We saw explosion. We saw vision. We saw elusiveness. All the things that you would want to see your running back have, he did it yesterday. Is he a game breaker with breakaway speed? No, he's not. But there's a lot of running backs in this league that aren't breakaway, track guys, and he's not. But he's fast enough. He catches the ball. He pass protects when asked to be able to pass protect. Najee had a great day yesterday. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about that. And like I said, Jaylen Warren wasn't good yesterday. You know me, I don't give excuses for being hurt. I understand that you're hurt, but that doesn't mean you can have bad play. But I don't even think Jaylen Warren was bad play. It was just he's out there. Some of the things that they were asking him to do, I don't think he was physically even able to do it. Or the Raiders also, they get paid too. They just tackled him. It is what it is. But regardless of all that, the running backs get an A. Najee was that good. He covered up for any limitations that Jaylen Warren had. Uh, they just get an A, period. End of the discussion. I don't want to hear it. But Najee, look, when he's bad, we say he's bad. But when he's good, we got to say he's good. And against the Raiders, Najee was outstanding. He was outstanding, people. Going to the wide receiver room, look, first and foremost, George Pickens got to stop dropping passes. The first two targets that they had to him, the first one hit him in a horrible spot right in the hands, and then it hit him right in the face. And then the next one, you could say, hey, it's a back shoulder type of throw. He had to jump to catch it. That's a catch that NFL receivers make 8 out of 10 times. It hit him right in the hands. You have to catch the football. I'm sorry. And George Pickens got to stop dropping the football. I do love the fact that late in the game, after the game was over, the Steelers tried to not only get him a touchdown, they were forcing him the football to keep him involved, to try to keep him happy. I don't dislike that at all. I understand what they were trying to do. Good for them. But he's just got to be better at the beginning of the game. You can't have those mental lapses dropping footballs like that. You just can't. But for the most part, the receivers were okay. I mean, they were okay. They blocked well when they were asked to block. They caught the ball. They didn't have a ton of opportunities. I mean, the Steelers attempted 24 passes. Some were throwaways and pressures. And again, you had some drops. But I don't think the wide receiver had a bad day. Some people are saying the receivers had a horrible day. And I'm like, nah, they really didn't. They really didn't. Give them a B minus on the day. B minus on the day. Like I said, they didn't have a ton of real opportunities, but when they did, they made the plays except for those two drops. I get it. I understand. Pickens has got to be better. If Pickens can elevate his game, the Steelers' offense can take off. I understand the play calling, and we'll get to that here in a minute. But Pickens has got to be the guy. He's just got to be the guy. Now, moving on to the offensive line, I'll start with Broderick. You know I got to start with Broderick Jones. First run of the game, Broderick Jones literally doesn't hit anybody. The very first run. And, oh, by the way, that run was a great play right up the middle. I mean, I think it got 11, 12, 13 yards or something. And so, 13-yard run. It was good play, but Broderick Jones literally doesn't hit anybody. Again, it's just, I don't know. Now, granted, he had his hands full all day long, and his pass blocking was absolutely atrocious. But again, Max Crosby's going to make good blockers look bad, much less average to mediocre like Broderick has been playing this season. But overall, the offensive line wasn't great. It wasn't great yesterday. There were some good spots, but this was the worst game that Dan Moore Jr. has played. It was the worst game that he has played. He had his hands full in run game and in the pass game. So hopefully that's not a continuation, that he can get back to how he was playing the first 3 games of the football season, because Dan Moore was good then. He hasn't been good the last 2. He's got to get back to that. Frazier, again, did his thing. We got to hope that 54 is okay, people. We got to hope that 54 is okay, that he can get back quickly. I don't want to say that we just rush him back and put him out there to put him out there, because the center position it's too important to just put a guy out there that is 60%. But I will say this. If his 60% and he can get the job done better than what the backup can, Ryan McCallum, then you just have to live with it. You got to live with it. Again, you know me. I don't give excuses for bad play. If you're hurt and you can't perform, I understand, then you got to sit down. But if you're going to be out there, you can't play bad, because that doesn't help anybody. Doesn't help the team, doesn't help you, doesn't help anybody if you play bad. So hopefully he can get back. But the offensive line, I'd give it a C. I will give it a C. We saw some things. Mason McCormick played better. We saw him get in and play better. Isaac, here or there on that big, that flea flicker or whatever we were trying to do, the reverse pass, that was Isaac's fault. And we'll probably have that in the all 22. Yeah, that was Isaac's fault. He was supposed to peel back and block the backside, and you can see it. It's like he forgot that he was supposed to peel back, and by the time he does, the outside backer is just he's basically waiting for Justin Fields. You all saw it. He's waiting for Fields to get the ball, and then he just nails him right in the back, and Isaac's running like, oh, man, whoops. Yeah, so he's still rounding into form. I think he will be fine, but we'll see moving forward. But the offensive line yesterday gets a C. So overall, for the offense, look, they scored the most points they scored all year. So you can't be too critical of that. Were there some plays that were missed? Yes, but there's always going to be some plays that were missed. You know me, I nitpick because as a crazy fan, that like I am, like most of us are, we want everything to be perfect. But I would give the offense the overall grade for the offense yesterday. I would give it a B. I thought they left some plays out there. I get it. Settled for some field goals. I get it. But overall, they like I said, they scored 32 points. And if you would have told me at the beginning of the year the Steelers scored 32 points in a football game, I would guarantee that we're winning that game. So we can nitpick and we can be unhappy with play calling and all of that stuff. 32 points still went up on the board. That's all that I know, and it resulted in a win. So good job by the offense. Let's move to the defense. We'll start with the defensive line. And again, when I talk about the defensive line, I always incorporate the outside linebackers because more times than not, those guys are rushing versus dropping in pass coverage. So just to clarify that, I think I got to start with TJ Watt. He was amazing against the run yesterday. They kind of took him out of the pad like most teams are going to do, especially without somebody on the other side that can really pressure. They've kind of taken TJ Watt out of, but they got a good right tackle as well, rookie over in with the Raiders. But having said all of that, TJ Watt was amazing against the run. Caused 2 forced fumbles. One was on the goal line, saved points. That's just what you do when you're the best defensive player in the world. That's just what you do, man. And he did it again. Big bounce back game from Keanu Benton. Cam Hayward didn't really need a big bounce back game. He was fine against Dallas, but Keanu Benton and Larry O were not, and they had a big bounce back game against the Raiders. After that first drive, and I will say I was furious, just like I know you guys were, that first drive, they did whatever they wanted. The Raiders didn't even get to a third down on that first drive. But after that, they couldn't run the ball. Would they run for 55 total yards for the game? Yeah, they couldn't run the ball. They couldn't do the things that they wanted to do. Again, a depleted offense, that's not our fault. That's not our fault. Nobody feels sorry for us when we have hurt guys. We can't feel sorry for anybody else. And what the Steelers did, they needed to do. Go dominate a team that you're better than. D-line was a big part of that. They get an A. Absolutely, they get an A. Linebackers. I've been so hard on the linebackers, the inside linebackers for the Steelers this year. And so have we, all fans have been. Patrick Queen needed to do more. Well, he did more yesterday. He had 13 total tackles. Linebacker group, Elandon Roberts, Peyton Wilson, they were all flying around yesterday. Again, they couldn't run the football. A lot of it was up front, but it was a lot of our linebackers were, no, you're not going to run the football. I can imagine that after last week's performance against a pathetic run offense of the Dallas Cowboys, which, by the way, they couldn't run the ball even an inch against the Detroit Lions, which is so frustrating as Steeler fans because we're like, come on, man. They couldn't run it. They haven't been able to run it all year, but they can run it on us. So I think that's what frustrated them most. Linebacking, that film study had to be horrific. They just had to be getting ripped apart. Well, they took that to heart. They get an A on the day. Great linebacker play. Like I said, after the first drive, they couldn't run the ball. And there wasn't a lot of just dink and dunk passes here and there. I know Bowers kind of got his a little bit, but for the most part, we covered all that up. The linebackers played good. Secondary struggled early. Like I said, they went right down the field on us, and we couldn't cover Bowers early on, and he's really good, though. He's really, really good. But look, they figured it out, and then they were able to slow them down. I mean, so I, I don't want to be too critical, but let's just call it what it is. The Raiders were playing practice squad guys out there for receiver, man. And that's literally what they were doing. I mean, they didn't have, the complement of weapons that they were trying to use. So they didn't move the football that often. The secondary did their job. It's tough to grade them because, like I said, they were going against guys that practice squad guys. That's who they were going against. But they still have to stop them. Just because they're squad guys, it doesn't mean that they can't have flashes or they're not capable. Well, the Steelers shut that down. I'll give the secondary a B plus on the day. It's hard to grade them. Like I said, when you're going against guys that maybe they'll be on the team next week, maybe they won't. Who knows? Who knows? But for their part, they did a good job. I will mention this. Beanie Bishop made another play. Now, I know he gave up a touchdown. He did. But that was after the game was decided. But he did make a play, a physical play, tackling Bowers on a tight end screen. Let's give him props where prop is due. We've been crushing him the last month, and he deserved it. But you know what? If he makes a play, he makes a damn play. Let's give that young man credit, because the more confidence that he gets, I think the better that he can be. I just think the better that he can be. So overall, with the defense, I give it an A minus. Like I said, the Raiders basically had two drives. One, they scored a touchdown, the first drive of the game, and then one at the end of the third quarter, going into the fourth quarter, where T.J. Watt forced a fumble. Other than that, and I'm not counting that drive at the end of the game when the score was 29-7. I mean, they got 270 yards yesterday, 275 yards yesterday. The Raiders did. 75 of them came after the game was over, after we were already ahead 29-7. And that game was over. So I'm not going to count that last touchdown. The game, like I said, the game was finished by that point. So I get it. It just, the defense played well. A minus for them. They did what they were supposed to do. A team that's depleted, you're supposed to dominate them. And they did that. Moving on to special teams, we got a block punt. I mean, our special teams units, other than last week when we were giving up those crazy pressures on punt, our special team units have been pretty special this season, even on little short returns and returns that we can get. But yeah, Chris Boswell, again, I believe, I know I'm a Steeler fan. Is he not the best kicker in the league? The only field goal he's missed this year was a 62-yarder. That's the only one. I mean, so I don't know. I just think he's the best kicker in the league. Some people can call me crazy, whatever. I think that he is. And he's clutch. And I mean, from 50 yards, I mean, he's automatic. He just doesn't miss. He just doesn't miss. Good guy. Waitman, as far as punting, 2 inside the 20. I think he averaged 45.7. He had 2 inside the 20. Yeah, it was a good day all around for the special teams again yesterday. As far as, so the special teams absolutely gets an A plus. Absolutely gets an A plus. As far as the coaching, look, we again did not start fast. I just don't understand why we can't start faster. But we got into the game. At least we recovered fairly quickly. If you know what I mean, we recovered fairly quickly this time, where previously we hadn't recovered so fast and it's caused problems. Well, the Steelers recovered. Okay, well, if we're going to recover and we're going to be able to do some more things, okay, go win the football game. We did that. And again, I've said this a couple of times on this report card, is we were the better team. The matchups favored us all across the board. They were depleted. We need to go dominate this team. And what I called it, a get right game. The Steelers should have gotten right, and they did. This is what you needed to do. You are better than this team. There's no reason that this game should have been close. It wasn't close. The final score isn't even as close as the game was well out of reach. 32-13 doesn't explain the half of it. The Steelers dominated this football game like they needed to dominate this football game. I'm happy about it. Like I mentioned at the top, I was wrong about Justin Fields saying he had a horrible game. He did not. Like I said, I can backtrack. I can be wrong. Some people are going to say, well, your credibility. Hey, man, I think the credibility comes in when you can't admit that you're wrong. I think that's where the credibility part comes in. I can be wrong. You know, nobody's perfect. But I still think that Mike Tomlin is going to give Russell Wilson the start next week. I still think he will. I don't think he should. I'm not rooting for it, but I think that's what's going to happen. Ugh. Either way, the coaching gets a B. Overall, Steelers get a B for their performance. Dominant. I loved it. We needed it. We just had to get right. We had to get right. The last 2 weeks just didn't sit well. Dallas is not a good football team. That's the thing. Dallas is a bad football team, and we gave that game away for absolutely no reason. The Colts, I think, are okay, but even then, we gave that game away. Just think about this, people. The snap fumble at Indianapolis where he wasn't ready for the snap. If that doesn't happen, I don't think there's anybody alive that's sane that doesn't believe the Steelers were going to go down and score and win that football game. I think everybody believes that because they had all the momentum, and the Colts literally couldn't stop them at that point. We stopped ourselves. And then we gave the game away to the Cowboys. We are basically two snaps from being 6-0. Two snaps with all the faults that we're talking about, with all the offensive play calling is bad, and it's been bad. The offensive line isn't good, and it hasn't been great. The defense giving up these yards, all of this stuff. We are two snaps away from being 6-0. So as much as I complain and whine and cry and nitpick and all of that, just like we all do, we're not that far away. We're not that far away. So I appreciate everybody tuning in, man, and checking us out. Like I said, Steelers Almighty, we are just continuously growing. That's because of you guys. Thank you for your support. Remember to like, follow, subscribe. Keep leaving those comments. Like I said, we don't have to agree on anything. Anything. I love going back and forth with you guys, man. So I appreciate it. And remember to hit that notification bell so you know exactly when Steelers Almighty content is coming out. We appreciate you guys. Make sure you check out the All 22 tomorrow. It'll be there. Aloha.